Welcome back to Unapologetic and Free. We're sisters by blood.
And friends by choice.
I'm Lekia,
And I'm Shar.
and we are excited to be back again for another episode. Today, we're talking about bullying, but specifically, we want to kind of focus on breaking the cycle, healing, wisdom, and courage. All of those things are a part of bullying. And so today, the goal we want to empower our listeners with practical tools, some biblical wisdom, some real life stories to help encourage you, to help you recognize bullying, to set some healthy boundaries, and to rebuild your identity after emotional harm. So, we may have some sensitive topics. So, just be aware if you need to reach out, if you need to talk to someone, please make sure that you do reach out to a mental health professional. If you're experiencing any bullying, we will definitely have the information on where you can go, phone numbers you can call if you are experiencing bullying. So,
Right.
some other things I want to touch on just as it relates to today's episode, just some of the core values that we want the theme to be throughout the episode. And just so you have some nuggets, is truth. Unapologetic and free, we're about truth. We speak honestly. We're going to speak honestly about any pain of bullying. No sugarcoating, no dismissing it. We're going to get raw and real about this topic. We hope, right, with we believe in healing, so we do these things because we want to bring awareness. We believe in the honesty and the pain of bullying, right? Emotional, physical. We want to encourage courage, right? We want you to take action if you're going through or you're currently being involved in bullying, whether that's speaking up, whether that's setting a boundary, whether that's seeking help, or just walking away from toxic people. Wisdom. We want to provide some wisdom, age appropriate, faith grounded, practical guidance for navigating bullying in real time. And then community is a value. We want to remind you guys that you're not alone, right? There is support, not just from us if you know us personally, but there's support. There's a strength in numbers, right? And so again, we bring these things and these topics to bring awareness and to let you know that there is help available. And again, we may discuss some emotional content. So just again, make sure that you take care of yourself. If you've got to step away, don't be ashamed to pause it and come back. We
And
do
by
have,
all means, we are not experts,
that's right.
but we do tell from experience that we've gone through, or we know personally people who have gone through bullying or any type of thing that we talk about on our episodes.
Thank you for adding that. I do want to add this scripture. Ephesians 4:32 says to be kind to one another, forgiving one another, and that's the spiritual aspect of how we counter bullying. Again, maybe you've been in a position to be the bully, maybe you were bullied, right? But we do want to just start the theme and just to make sure we do share that is to be kind to one another. That is the solution, really, in a nutshell. I also wanted to mention for you guys that we will have a special guest joining us today because we're talking about bullying, not just for adults, but also in children, also in teenagers. And so stay tuned for our special guest later on in the episode. All right, Shar, you know what time it is.
I know
Social
what
media,
time it is.
right? Social media said what?
What they say.
So we post questions on social media in this segment, and then we read some of the comments and the responses that you guys share. We do not share names. So again, if you're following us on any of the platforms, but specifically, we usually post these on our Facebook page. Please comment and let us know so we can share some of those comments. We might share your comment during the show. So one of the first questions of that we posed was, "Have you ever been bullied?" Like that was just a general question. And so some of the responses says, I was bullied as a kid because I was quiet and chunky. As a teenager, because I was bigger and more developed than the other kids. Also because I had off-brand clothes. I recall a time in middle school, I was being followed by a group of kids and they were yelling and spitting on me all the way home. And there was absolutely no one for me to tell when I got home. I just washed my clothes and my backpack, cleaned myself up, and acted like it didn't happen. As an adult, my first husband bullied me all the time to do whatever it was that he wanted to do. And that included intimidation, threats, physical, mental, and emotional abuse. Wow, that was a lot. That was bullied as a child, as a teenager,
And as an adult.
and as an adult. So I thought that was a great example. And again, we thank our followers for sharing those intimate details about that. What do you think about that so far?
It just ties into the ways that adults, I mean, from a kid all the way to an adult, that she can be bullied.
That's right. Another comment said, yes, there was a failed attempt in the playground, but I surprised her by standing up and not bowing down. So, attempt to be bullied, but at the time she had enough to be able to say, no, I'm not going for it. And so that bully backed down. So I thought that was cool too, to be able to show ways that you can speak up and stand up for yourself. You
Absolutely.
ever had anything like that where you were able to stand up for yourself and so you weren't bullied?
Um, yeah, I had when I was in middle school, it was an attempt to be bullied because of my hair and because I was skinny and they was calling me ugly. But then I learned how to fight, and so once I learned how to fight, that kind of nipped that in the bud.
That's funny. This next one says, I got bullied for being too skinny. People would come behind me in the hallway, pick me up, or grab my wrist and say, oh my God, you're so skinny. They would ask me if I was anorexic or bulimic. Walk by and say, do guys even like girls that skinny? Loud enough for me to hear. In choir, we had chairs on these riser type things, and this one girl would always set my chair on the edge of the riser, trying to make me fall, and she would make fun of my singing. A follow up question that I had posed was, how do you know if you are being bullied in the workplace?
Okay,
And so some of the responses, this one says, if someone makes you feel as though you have to do something or comply with their rules or directions by threat, force, and control, it's bullying. I've witnessed and reported this behavior firsthand in the workplace.
good for that person for
Yes,
reporting it.
reporting it, right? Another one says, when any individual is doing the following, the behavior intimidated, offends, degrades, or humiliates another, possibly in front of others. It can be a supervisor, coworker, or colleague. Unfortunately, most of the time, bullies often operate within the rules and policies of an organization as to not go too far.
Ooh, and and a lot of times in that workplace, they try to say stuff like, "Oh, I was just joking. Oh, I was just playing. Don't take me serious." When they start saying stuff like that, it's like, you know what you're doing.
Right. And I just can't imagine, but definitely it's happening today. So,
Exactly, because it's one of those hot words, bullying,
buzzword.
bullying, but yeah, buzzwords. All right, so this will lead us into defining what bullying is. So, what is bullying? Repeated harm and power imbalance. Types of bullying. You can have physical, verbal, social, relational. Cyberbullying, workplace bullying. So now we know with the age of the internet, we got them, keyboard warriors, as they call them.
Mhm.
And what bullying is not. Bullying is not conflict, it's not a disagreement or healthy correction.
That's good because sometimes with that healthy correction, people feel like they're being bullied because they're getting feedback and they're getting correction that they might not like, right? You're at work, you're messing up, you're doing something wrong, your supervisor's holding you accountable for it, and it feels like, oh, I'm being bullied, but you have to make sure it's not healthy correction doesn't make it bullying, right? Just because they're telling you you're doing something wrong that you might not want to hear because sometimes we don't want to hear that we're not doing things right. And then again, that could come across or make you feel like you're being bullied, but it really wasn't. So,
Yeah,
and
but then also too, I feel like as supervisor or whatever, you need to ask your people like, how do you like want to receive feedback? Because however you're presenting it, because we know a lot of times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So
right.
based upon how they are presenting the information to that person, they could perceive it as, being picked on or being singled out.
I agree. And as a supervisor, I try to make a conscious decision when my people came on. I gave them a questionnaire and I asked them how they liked feedback. So I often refer back to those questionnaires because, as time goes on and you don't always have to give feedback. So I'll refer back and say, okay, let me look and see how. And then I try to make sure that I'm giving the feedback based on how they want it. Like some people might say, oh, well, I want you to give me the hard truth first and then give me whatever accolades are. Some of them in the past have said, give me examples. Like if you're going to bring
Hmm.
the feedback, can you give me like dates and times and specific examples to refer back to in your feedback, which I appreciate, right? And so then it doesn't feel uncomfortable when you're going and
Exactly.
giving them that and you have the dates and times versus somebody who didn't say that they don't like feedback like that. You might not want to have too many examples of hey, because then it could feel like somebody's picking on you. So
Picking on them.
definitely, I agree with that.
That was good. I like that little back and forth. Okay, so moving on. Bullying in children, warning signs, and what helps. So, signs a child is being bullied, avoiding school, headaches, stomach aches, mood shifts, missing items.
Can we
Uh,
pause right there for a moment? So, as it talks about avoiding school, right? How do we know? Like, what are some things that, as a parent, you would be able to say that your child is avoiding school?
so, if they don't want to get up, it's like they were excited about going to school, right? You didn't have any problem with them going to school, any problem with them, missing days. They really don't want to miss days. But all of a sudden you see their mood kind of start shifting as, you ask them questions like, oh, how was school? And they start giving you short answers where before they were giving you a whole rundown of their day.
That's
You
good.
start noticing that they're sick more often, where they're starting to miss school. You notice that they get to school, but then they asking you to come and get them because they sick. They going to the nurse office.
That's good.
Those type of things.
Okay.
You could also notice too, like they're coming home and they hungry, but you like, well, you didn't eat lunch. Oh, I didn't have time to eat lunch or whatever. Those are some things that as a parent you could possibly start, or if they come in with bruises, unexplained bruises, right?
I guess
Unexplained
too.
bruises. Huh?
That I said, and I guess too, as parents, I'm a parent. I have a teen. You're a parent, but they're older. Paying attention to our kids. I want to set that we have to pay attention to what our kids are saying to us as parents. And I know sometimes I'm getting home, it's the bustle, and you're just like, but really paying attention to be able to notice, are they avoiding school? To be able to notice, okay, why are you to be able to notice and ask the question, why are you hungry every day? Right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Or they were talking about friends this, and then all of a sudden you don't hear nothing else about those friends.
Right.
Good question. All right, signs a child may be bullying. Now, what if your child is the one that's bullying?
That's right.
So, some signs are they start becoming aggressive, they have secrecy online, lack of empathy, repeated drama. They always in some type of situation where they're getting into disagreements with people. They start becoming with their phone, or their electronics.
Yeah.
They don't want you to go through it, or they don't. If you're that parent that actually goes through your kids' phone.
And I like that the feedback you're giving because you work at a high school, right? So you're right there in the thick of these things and you're able to see some of this stuff firsthand from the one looking at, and I want to ask, as a teacher, from that lens, parent, but also teacher, do you feel like these same things are signs and things that you pay attention to as being a teacher for the student that's being bullied and then students that are bullying others?
Absolutely, because I consider myself as one of those trusted adults on campus. So the kids will just come and talk to me and tell me, or they'll say, "Hey, I need to meet with you." And then, I listen to them and I'm like, "Okay, so how can we handle this situation? Like, what do you want me to do?" Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I don't want you to go say nothing." And I'm like, "Okay, but something has to be done. So, do you want to have a circle? We can have a circle with you, the other person, and me. If you don't want me there, we can have a circle with you, the counselor, and the other student." We have things in place at our campus where we do circles, and then we also do, oh God, stay away agreements. And so those are things that we can do in house. And if those things doesn't happen, then I mean, if they don't work, then that's when we start pulling parents in.
And I wanted to touch on where it says repeated drama. So that repeated drama is like you always involved in something, or maybe as a parent, the school is calling you saying your kid was involved in this altercation today, and every other day or every other week, your kid is constantly name is coming up in something as it relates to a fight. Those are also right ways that you could kind of start to ask, is my kid bullying somebody if their name is always coming up in these altercations as being the aggressor, right?
Absolutely. That is one of those signs. And then as for parents, you can't, kids will probably say stuff like, "Oh, well, they were picking on me, or they doing this, or they doing that." But why? Why are they always picking on you? Or why is that your first defense to say, "Oh, they're picking on me"?
That's good.
All right. So we just talked about this, but what parents, guardians can do. If their child is being bullied or their child is being bullied, document incidents, involve school early, teach assertive responses and safe reporting, build identity and confidence at home. So, again, parents, you got to be paying attention to your kids. You got to have those conversations with them. You got to be that safe place, that safe space for them to be able to come and just be open to talk to you.
And speaking of that, I want to interject as it relates to the parent involvement. Just thinking about a story when I was in school, one of the things for me, I felt like our parents didn't support me. Like if I would come home and say, "Hey, somebody, this girl is picking on me," or somebody, they never did anything. They didn't notify the school. They didn't take, they didn't really, and so I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel like it was safe for me to come home and say, "Hey, these things are happening to me." So again, just think about that, parents. Your kids, in order for them to feel safe coming home and telling you, they have to believe that you're going to support them. They have to believe that you're going to find, investigate, right, versus disregarding them. Or in some cases, y'all, as parents, and we do the best we can, end up blaming our kids when they're trying to come and say, "Hey, this is happening to me," but instead they're left feeling like, "Well, what did you do? Why is this?" Or, "We don't believe you," or, "You'll be fine, you'll be fine." And I just remember there were times when I wish that my parents would have came to the school, or they would have, I mean, I don't know, maybe try to find out who the parents were of that kid. And so I just remember feeling that way. So I just wanted to share that as it relates to now being a parent, and why I try to make sure that I am a trusted adult to my son and my children, so they feel safe to tell me.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And then, too, times are changed. Like, bullies are bullies, but I feel like bullies wasn't as bad back then as they are now.
I don't know,
I
because I
don't
feel like some
know
of the,
because I think the bullies nowadays have more at their disposal than they did when we were
I agree.
kids. It was just more name calling, maybe pushing, maybe.
I
um
think it still feels the same though. I
think
mean, I
so.
just feel like even though they have more tools because of social media and because of things like that, but we didn't have cell phones back then.
It
Um,
doesn't it doesn't change the way how you felt.
yeah,
Okay, that's fair.
that's just me.
All right. Most common forms of bullying. The most
Wait,
frequent
Do you have any statistics?
I'm, I'm going.
Oh, oh, my bad, y'all.
You all right with this one, boy? Okay. The most frequent reports involve spreading rumors, 13%, and being insulted or called names, 12%. Physical bullying, pushing, or tripping is reported by 5% of students. Now, we talked about cyberbullying, and so there is a rise with cyberbullying. So while in-person bullying has seen a gradual decline over the last decade, cyberbullying is on a sharp upward trajectory. Lifetime prevalence. As of 2025, 2026 reports, roughly 58% of teens report having experienced cyberbullying at some point in their lives.
Hmm.
I can see that. I see it every day. Okay. Recent activity. Nearly 30% of students reported being targeted online within the last 30 days.
Wow.
And especially with, let's say, Snapchat and also with Instagram notes, they can disappear after 24 hours.
Oh, okay. I knew that about Snapchat, but I didn't know that about Instagram notes.
Yes, they can set it to where whatever they say disappears in 24 hours. But you got some students that's quick with the screenshot. So they're able to screenshot it and they will bring it into the school to show us what's
Mhm.
going on. Platforms, youth on YouTube, 79%, Snapchat, 69%, and TikTok, 64%, are statistically the most likely to encounter online harassment.
So when we're saying, online harassment, cyberbullying, it's the name calling and all that stuff is just through those platforms. So like you said, it's them maybe doing a comment on the post, or it's them posting something and maybe tagging the person they're bullying.
Absolutely, they're creating memes, and especially now with AI, you can make all type of memes, videos, pictures, or whatever, and they're posting it.
I think the other thing too to mention about the cyberbullying is because you can hide behind who you really are. Like you can have these screen names, and so you can be somebody else, right? And you can bully somebody and they don't even know who you are, right? Because you can hide behind a fake name and then you're still bullying. So in these some cases, you being bullied and you don't even know who you're being bullied by. And
So
then it
true.
could be by somebody who you think is actually your friend. Y'all, if you don't know, Shar and both of us are true crime junkies. We are documentary junkies. And so I'm just thinking about some recent documentaries and things where, the people closest to you are the what was the one bullying,
Yes,
right? We watched a
yes.
Netflix show, movie, and it was the mom was bullying her own daughter, but she was hiding behind a fake name and a fake phone number and all that stuff. And so that's what makes the cyberbullying that much more detrimental, because you can hide
It be
and
your
not
own
know,
people too
and your
sometimes.
own people, y'all. It's just crazy.
I remember that documentary. That was good.
So you just
I don't
have to
even
be.
remember the name of it, y'all, but it was on Netflix. And it was like a really big one where it was in the news and it was in the media.
And
Yeah,
it was the girl mama that was doing it.
the girl mama.
Just saying some mean things too, y'all. And we're saying, mean things like, don't be here anymore. I'm being careful what I say. Don't be here anymore. And you're ugly and skinny and you need to lose weight. And again, all these things, those when we talk about bullying and saying those hateful things, and then again to find out that your own mama was the one doing it. That's what made it so diabolical. But
Diabolical.
there was another recent study that said, from the Center of Education, from the CDC, it says approximately 19 to 20% of students ages 12 to 18 in that range report being bullied at school. So, not the only place where bullying can happen. We're going to get into it, but specifically being bullied at school. However, the numbers fluctuate significantly depending on grade level and the type of bullying, whether it's in person or online. So fluctuates. I mean, the older in the grade they get, the more bullying is happening, the more severe it's happening. So again, believe it or not, elementary kids is bullying. So
Yes,
from
they are.
elementary, then you move into middle school, then you get to high school, and then young adult, even into college. It's still considered school. And those universities and stuff, bullying is still happening as well. So when we talk about where majority of the bullying is happening, it is at school. And where
It's
do
at
our kids
school.
spend where do our kids spend most of their time? In
At
school.
school.
The place
At
where they're
school.
going and spending most of their time is the same place where they're susceptible to being bullied and have to deal with that. Ain't that something? Listen at
Yeah.
me. Ain't that something? Ain't that
Ain't
something?
that something?
So
All right,
yeah,
so let's talk about, since we talked about kids, let's go ahead and talk about adults.
all right. So we're going to move into bullying in adults. Specifically, we're going to look at workplace, family, and then social spaces. Again, social media, going out and about maybe, but because again, bullying happens all over. And so workplace bullying, we want to start there, just to start there, right? Because as it relates to places, I think the reason why the emphasis on workplaces, because with kids, we talked about at school, right?
At
But
school,
right, but now we're shifting into adults, and majority of the time adults spend at
we are
work.
at work. We
So
spend more
workplace
time at work.
bullying is a thing. And so workplace bullying is intimidation, humiliation, exclusion, sabotage, threats to job security. That was a lot. Each one of those in their own right as it
To be
relates to,
talked about.
I don't want to rush through this, right? So intimidation, intimidated by you as a worker, right? And sometimes it's the peer to peer. Your peer is intimidated by you, or they use intimidation. They try to intimidate you to make you be afraid to speak up, to come to work. Y'all just know, and the same characteristics of the kids not wanting to go to school,
It's the
a
same
it could be
characteristics
the
of,
same with adults. So again, husbands, wives, your husband might be calling in and not wanting to go to work, and you might feel like you've been calling in a lot. Might not want to just not check to see if maybe something's going on at work as
right,
it relates to
absolutely.
bullying,
Maybe the
right?
environment is toxic.
Humiliation is another form of it. You're constantly being humiliated for whatever reason, right? That person, again, it could be peer to peer, it could be a supervisor, it could be supervisor, right? But again, constantly being humiliated. Exclusion. So everybody, we going out to lunch, but you got to stay here. You can't go.
That's right.
I'm excluded may look like, oh, everybody's getting celebrated for their birthday, but when it's your birthday, they're not acknowledging you. They're not doing anything for you. That could be a form and feel like bullying. We're just trying to label some things and make it practical to bring awareness. Cause you might say, huh, maybe, right? Sabotage, right? Where they're sabotaging you. They're telling you to do this and then you do it, and then they told you to intentionally do something that was wrong. And here you are thinking, okay, well, they told me to do this, but they sabotaged you by giving you the wrong information.
Or not all the information.
That's good.
They're not
Um,
giving you all of the information, so they sabotage you in that way.
and then threats to job security, constantly telling you they're going to fire you. If you don't do this, if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your job. Everything is the consequence is always, oh, you're going to lose your job. I'm going to fire you. I'm going to fire you. Do any of those things resonate with you? I personally, I mean, I've been working since I was 16, 15, maybe. I can't think of any times where I felt like any of those things were happening to me at work.
I don't either. I don't think that I've experienced it. Also, too, a lot of times, my mentality is I ain't coming to work to try to make no friends. I'm coming to work and do a job. So, a lot of times maybe it was, and I just overlooked it.
Right. And for me, I didn't take it as bullying. I took it as they just didn't like me, and they didn't like me there, and they would have been happy if I no longer worked there. Maybe they wanted me to quit, but I didn't feel like I was being bullied. Now I did feel like I was being treated unfairly. I was being, kind of asked to do things, or I was being challenged, right? Like when I'm giving answers, my answers are being questioned more than the other person. I have been in situations where I felt like a person was intentionally looking for faults, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm, let's say an example is we're in a business meeting and I'm giving a report and I'm reporting about blah, blah, blah. Well, I have felt like there were times when certain individuals would question what I was saying. Oh, well, if I said, oh, well, this week we had 20 enrollments, and then this person is like, 20 enrollments. Well, what were the details behind these enrollments, right? So everything that I'm saying, I'm being questioned about what I'm saying versus somebody else is reporting their same thing and they're not getting any pushback. Do we feel
Mm.
like, I mean, maybe that could have been they were trying to bully me? And sometimes I did feel a little like, well, dang, this feels like a bit much. Like, why is this person just constantly bothering me? Maybe
Now,
that
was
was
it
them
an
trying to.
every time thing or was it
It felt like it was an every time thing, and in the moment you feel like it, but every is a absolute word.
okay?
But
So,
I think
whenever you presented or gave your report,
it
was it
was the
this
same
type of
person. Yes, and it was the same person that would question. If I sent an email, this same person would be the one to come back and have a question or a response. Or when I wasn't in the room, this person is asking about what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing, or they didn't agree with what I was doing and why. So I guess I have had, as we are talking through it, I have had a case where maybe the person was trying to bully me, and intimidate me. And maybe even that was form of sabotage if they were intentionally trying to make me look bad.
hmm
That could be a form of sabotage.
or a form of humiliation too?
Yeah, good point. So yeah. Okay. So now we want to talk about family/church bullying. Can your family bully you?
Yes, they can.
Can your church family bully you?
Yes, they can.
So some of the ways that we can define that is gossip. So constantly, not constantly. I don't want to just keep using constantly, but gossiping. All right, telling your business and telling and saying things about you, shaming you. Right, shaming you for decisions, shaming you for things that happen to you. That can happen in your family and at church. Control. Family can control you, and that's a form of bullying when they want to control everything you say, what you do, where you can go, how you
Yes,
spend
that's
your
true.
money. It can be considered bullying. Public embarrassment. So, public embarrassment in the family, right, might look like you at a family function and you're being publicly embarrassed. When you come to the family function, as soon as you get there, the family member is like, oh, look at you. What you got that on for? Right. And we're not talking about just the regular dozens. We're not talking about clowning, but we're talking about they're being intentional about publicly embarrassing you.
Right, drawing attention to you specifically.
And even in the church, you can be publicly embarrassed in the church. Whether, again, that's by a peer, church leaders have been known to bully their members and bully people by way of shaming, by way of controlling what
Hmm.
their church members do and don't do, where they go and where they don't go, how
Who
you
they
do
talk
that,
to and
right?
who they
Who they talk
shouldn't
to and
talk
who
to.
they don't.
Yeah.
And also, church leaders have been known to publicly embarrass their said members. That can look like sharing a story. Like we think about our church leaders, we go to them for counsel, right? Just giving an example. We go to them for counsel, and I go and I share. This did not happen to me, y'all. I'm just giving an example. But you go, right, and you share an intimate story, something's going on. Maybe you're going through in your marriage and you and your spouse, and then the public embarrassment of your situation is now being preached across the pulpit using your names. Because I want to clarify that. A lot of times stories are shared, but nobody's name is mentioned. So to me, that's not public embarrassment because don't nobody know that's you unless you say
Unless
that
you,
that's you.
that's right.
But I'm specifically talking about the public embarrassment of they used your name and said you and blah, blah, blah. And they told your whole story or your whole business out there for the public to embarrass you.
No, they didn't do that to embarrass you. They just used that to give an example of what not to do.
And there are people and leaders that might ask for permission first. They might
Right?
first say, Hey, and here's where I would encourage somebody: if you're not okay, say no. Right? Like
Say
if somebody
no.
asks you, "Hey, are you okay with me?" If you're truly not okay, then as we get into what you can do, then say no. I'm not okay with you sharing that. And then it's still up to that leader to not share it in that moment if you ask, right? Those are things that, like, even I think about counseling, right? You can't share the intimate details, right, unless they give you some kind of written permission to, yes, I'm okay with you sharing that. But you have to have something that says that person gave you permission to share. And then you still usually don't share their name.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So
true.
again, just things to be aware of, right? We're bringing awareness and we telling you true situations for you to kind of think about. Am I being bullied? Is my family? And family, y'all, it could be a brother, it could be a sister, your mama, your daddy, your cousin, your second, third, fourth cousin. It could be somebody you consider your family. It doesn't mean
That's
it's
right.
blood,
It
but
doesn't
if
have to
you
be
consider
blood.
them your family and you're experiencing any of these things and do your own research, then hey, you may be susceptible to bullying. Anything you want to add about family or church bullying?
Nope, I think that was right on point. I think we covered it all.
So we're going to talk about boundaries though, as it relates to that, and some boundaries that you can put in place to kind of counter the workplace and the family and church
And
bullying.
the family and church and school.
So naming the behavior clearly. So, what does that look like? When you're being humiliated, it's naming that clearly and saying, "Hey, Charnay, I really felt uncomfortable. I felt humiliated when you shared that intimate detail that I told you about. I don't know if you did it on purpose, but I felt humiliated." That's naming the behavior that you
Yes.
felt, or I'm naming what you did. What is it about
Right.
the behavior you did? Hey, I
And
told
how
you
it made
this.
me feel. Hmm.
Right. I told you about this sensitive, and then you shared it with so and so. I didn't appreciate that. Can you please not share information that I share with you? That's naming it, right?
Hmm.
Shaming. Hey, you shamed me when I, shared that I made a mistake. Naming it is what we're saying. You've got to name the behavior, because what tends to happen is people will say, "What? I didn't know that I
I didn't.
embarrassed you.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean that wasn't my intent." And that's fine if it wasn't your intent, but
But
that's
you
still
did
what
it.
happened. And if we don't name it, and that is where I feel like a lot of why so much bullying happens is because we don't name the behavior. We're not
Hmm.
bold enough to confront the bully and the person, because I don't want to call everybody a bully just because they might have had a bad behavior, but we're
Yeah.
not able. But that's one of the ways that we can put boundaries in place for ourselves and for the other person, is name the behavior clearly, y'all. Tell them exactly what they did and how it made you feel.
Because you can't assume that they know.
You cannot assume that they know. Written communication when possible. In the workplace, that looks like an email. CC whoever you need to CC on it. I'm queen of blind copying sometimes, and sometimes I blind copy myself, but written communication when possible. Written is, again, it could be an email, it could be an HR complaint. That's written. And I jumped ahead, but I'm just saying forms of written. It could be a letter. You wrote a statement out and you wrote the letter. That's written
That's right.
communication and don't wait. Do it in the moment.
Do it in
Again,
the
right
moment.
when it happens, just write that stuff down so you can have an account of it. Maybe you do something with it, maybe you
Maybe
don't.
you don't.
But that's a form of written communication whenever possible. And then HR or leadership escalation in the workplace. If you HR, a trusted person in the workplace, if it's your direct supervisor that you feel bullied, everybody has a boss, y'all, except the main person, right? And then most companies still have some kind of board of directors. So even
Correct.
whoever the main, they still have. So depending on who it is, leadership escalation. But as a leader, I would encourage you to still first try to address it with that direct
With that
individual.
leader, yeah. Don't just jump over their head first.
And then also, if you're going to go through HR or leadership escalation, make sure you follow whatever those proper chains are. All agencies and jobs usually have a process to filing a complaint. So make
Yes.
sure, because sometimes just because you skip the step, it doesn't change that the situation happened, but sometimes it doesn't get addressed because you didn't follow the procedure. So make sure you follow whatever that is. And then limiting access when harm continues.
That's
You
right.
you've named it, you did the written communication, you maybe even went to HR and escalated it, then you got to just limit access,
Right. Avoid if possible,
right?
or
And not
not
to
be
where you're,
alone with that person. Make sure that
that's
it's
right.
somebody else around you when you're having to interact with that person.
I like that a lot because that's also like saying I have a witness, right? I
Hmm.
want to be, and again, it feels tedious. But if that's the boundary that you have to put in place to not be bullied, and then to hold that bully accountable and to get them to change the behavior, then you're just gonna have to bring somebody in every time, and eventually the bully probably is gonna get tired of you having to bring somebody in, and then
And
they
they
might
gonna
move on.
stop.
They'll stop,
Hmm.
right? So wanted to share some more statistics, right? So approximately 30% of adults report experiencing bullying in the workplace. So do you think that's a low number or a high number?
Um, I think it's a low number
I do
because it
too.
said reported. So
Yeah,
it's some that's going on that's not being reported.
I agree. Then it says 70% of bullied individuals do not report the incidents to HR or management.
So
So
yeah, that
it's
just
like of
confirmed
that
what we just said.
30%, right, 70 of that is not even being reported. Because even in my situation that I shared, I don't know that. I think I did. I think I did share it with upper management, just so they could be aware and just so I could let them know, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I don't feel
Mm.
like anything really happened. They did anything about it, but that's another story. Victims of adult bullying are 2 to 3 times more likely to experience mental health issues. Hands
I can
down,
see
y'all.
that. I can see that.
Definitely. Because you're made to feel less than, you're made to, and even in children, y'all, you got to know that even in our kids, I know we're on work, but even in our kids are more susceptible to mental health issues as a result of being bullied,
I agree.
right? Workplace bullying costs employers an estimated $14,000 per employee annually due to loss of productivity.
Because they're not able to focus. They're not able to, they're making mistakes, and those mistakes could be costing the employer money, or they could be calling out, which, yeah,
Yes. So that's interesting. 60% of adults believe that bullying is a serious issue in their workplace. So that means 60% of people in all workplaces believe that bullying is a serious issue in that workplace. What are we doing in these workplaces, y'all? Why
girl,
is
that
it so
sounds like
much?
a toxic environment.
Right?
Ain't nobody trying
Why
to
are
go to work
workplaces, right?
for that.
Sounds like workplaces are just as toxic as schools these days, right?
Yes.
Then it says only 20% of organizations have a formal policy addressing bullying behavior. And I don't know if I don't know if it's a specific one for bullying.
Well, I don't think there is. I'm thinking about my place of work. Like, there's no specific one for bullying, but I know that you can like contact the EEO, the equity something office, equality office or whatever, and then you can also we have something that's called see something, say something, even employees, and so it's an anonymous reporting system for kids and for adults.
Yes. So something I found a quote and it says, "Sometimes the adult bullies are former wounded children who never healed."
I can see that. I can see that. I can see that because also too is now they're in a position of power that they weren't able to be in when they were a kid. So they're bringing some of those experiences into it.
Yes.
I can see that.
I definitely can see that, right? So I want to share a video. We're just going to hear the audio, but the title of this video says how to deal with bullies at work. So this is in line with where we're at before we transition into the next section. So again, you're just going to hear the audio, but how to deal with bullies at work. Let me get my sound together. Sorry.
Hey, when they come at you, don't match their energy, but don't shrink from it either. Stay level and stay calm. Simple, I hear you, and move on. Two, say it once and say it simply. You don't need a speech and you don't need to win. Say, I'd like to be spoken to differently. And then just stop talking. You're not trying to embarrass them. You're making one thing clear. This doesn't work on me. Three, stop shrinking and start standing. You've been working harder, staying quieter, going out of your way. It's not working because bullies don't respect people who make themselves smaller. They respect people who stay solid. So show up, do your job, and hold your ground. That's how you stop being a target. Send this video to your friend and follow how to convince lawyer Ben.
So good tips, right? And I felt like that was in line with what some of the boundaries and the things that we had already talked about, right? As it relates to what to put into place and some things you can do as it relates to the bully. Because I like the fact that he's saying at the end of the day, they're bullying you because you showed some sign of weakness. They're
Yes.
thriving off of the
Yes.
fact that you're maybe weak, you're vulnerable, and you're not fighting back or you're not pushing back.
But then you said something too earlier when I was saying it's strength in numbers. So again, if you're having to interact with that person, if you have somebody there with you that hopefully they can help you be stronger because you're not alone.
Yeah. So at this time, y'all, we're going to take a quick break. Again, we're going to bring our special guest on and we'll be right back. All right. So welcome back. We are back with our special guest, my son,
Hi.
your nephew. We have Jadon with us. Jadon, can you go ahead and say hello and tell him maybe how old you are and what grade you're in?
Hello, I'm Jaden Stewart, 16, and I go to Steele High School, ninth grade.
Yes. Thank you for being willing to come on the show and talk and share your experience as a teenager. So we
No
really do
problem.
appreciate that.
Yeah, give us some inside scoop. I have the inside scoop from being a teacher, but you can give us the inside scoop of being a student in high school.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So first thing we want to ask you, Jadon, is what are the most common forms of bullying that you see right now?
Most forms of bullying that I've seen is people picking on one specific student, making a joke that's repetitive or making jokes of a person who has certain disabilities and stuff like that. So there's a lot of other ways that you can, that I see of people being bullied.
So like
So
what when you say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, like what exactly have you seen?
Like people shoving, pushing people around, not saying nice words, not giving people the kind of respect that they I'm not deserve, but like
That's the
Yeah,
right
that's
word.
true.
that they
Everybody
deserve,
deserves respect.
Yes.
that they deserve, and just being overall mean to one specific person. To be variety, but I mostly see it in just more just like to one student than overall.
And then when you said disabilities, like what kind of disabilities are some disabilities that they have that are being made fun of?
Like autism, deformed body parts,
Oh, okay.
mental and physical disabilities, not being able to learn certain ways or not be able to spell certain words or be able to have certain capabilities that they need.
Hmm.
So I see a lot of people laughing and giggling and saying mean things to those people who have those certain type of disabilities.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. And that's like in the classroom? Is that in the cafeteria, in the
In the
courtyard?
it's in the class. I see it in classrooms, courtyards, cafeteria. I see it pretty much anywhere. While I'm at school.
Follow-up question. Have you noticed like what do the teachers do or say when that's happening in the classroom?
The teacher would give them a warning, tell them to stop, and if they don't, then they'll take further action when it comes to bullying. Because the school I go to, they're really strict on bullying, have a really strict bullying policy. So they want to make sure every student is being treated properly.
That's
So,
good.
what is the bullying policy? Do,
No, don't make fun of anyone. Don't put your hands on anyone. Don't make fun of someone. Don't treat anyone worse than you. Don't treat anyone better or worse than anyone else. Don't make fun of someone in the wrong way. Because there's a different way from laughing with them or laughing at them.
That's true.
Mhm. Very
That
good.
is so
Very
true.
good. And is it some kind of paper that y'all fill out, or you just report it, or the teachers fill something out and they
Um,
turn it in?
you could tell the teacher, and sometimes the teacher be in the class and she's seeing it, or she'll ask, and the person might confront, or she just go off base what you say. But sometimes when you tell the principal, he'll make you write a statement. So he'll give you a form and tells you
Written
to write your name on
communication.
it, write your name on it, when the time happened, who was it, and basically tell them all the information that happened about the incident that happened while you were getting when you were getting bullied and what he said to you or what the person said to you.
Now, do you believe that students are actually filling out those forms or they just remaining quiet?
Some of them fill out forms, but some of them don't because some of them feel like if they do that, it's gonna make it worse on them than if they don't
Retaliation. Yeah.
than if they don't say anything. If they like don't say anything.
Okay.
That's that
Thank you.
retaliation we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you feel like social media plays a part in bullying?
So like social media has a big part of bullying because there's so many forms of bullying on social media. You could do it privately, you can do it not like you could do it in person. A person can talk about you and they can blast it to everyone. They can people he could send mean photos and stuff about you and stuff to everyone and people laugh at you that way. And sometimes they might not know it's you. They might know it's you, they might not know it's you. So it's kind of anonymously when someone's bullying you through social media. And there's not much you can do about social media bullying. You could tell, but it's more like a most common thing that's happens.
So, have you experienced cyberbullying?
And honestly, I haven't encountered any cyberbullying that I've been told. Anyone's told me, but I haven't really encountered any cyberbullying.
Do you know anyone who has?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Have you seen it on the platforms that you like? What social media do you predominantly be on?
I've been on TikTok. I see a lot of there's more bullying on Instagram than there is on TikTok. Instagram is more open. There's a lot more people they talk to on there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more they can there's more people are gonna see it depending on how much who do you like who follows you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you post about that specific person and make a joke about them, the people that's following you is gonna see it more often than they are gonna see it on TikTok. Because once you post it on Instagram, it's gonna have a little circle around it and it's gonna shoot to everyone that you follow and they're gonna automatically kind of see it.
Thank you, because we talked about that earlier about Instagram being one of those main platforms. And so you're just confirming that Instagram is one of those main platforms where the cyberbullying is happening as it relates to social media.
Because I also talked about YouTube, cyberbullying happening in YouTube. Have you seen that?
No, ma'am, I haven't really seen any cyberbullying because that hasn't really came up on my feed or stuff like that. But I've never really encountered anything on YouTube.
So for me, I have like students who have YouTube channels where they're doing drawing and stuff, and then
So,
I subscribe, and then I'll see it, and then the comments I've seen where people have been saying mean things to them about their art and stuff.
yes, ma'am, I've seen stuff like that on comments and stuff. I've seen mean comments on a lot of videos I watch on YouTube.
Hmm. I was like, I know it was happening because I didn't seen it.
All right. So, last question we want to ask is what would you say to a teen who is bullying others? So, if you know somebody that's bullying somebody else, what would you say to them?
I would tell them that's not nice. You shouldn't be bullying someone off of what they look like or what their preference are, what they're doing, because it's same thing could happen to you. Why would you do that to someone else when it could happen to you? You wouldn't want anyone else treating you like that. So why would you treat someone worse than what you treat yourself? Or would you
So
want,
have Go ahead.
or if you want, like, if you want someone to treat you like that, don't treat someone else like that.
So you're saying that if you're witnessing bullying, you're gonna say something to stop it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so have you said that you have not been bullied?
I've been bullied, and I've been bullied before. A
Okay,
lot.
and
I've
how
been
did you
bullied a lot of
handle it?
times. I told a teacher, I ignored that person, but I never took it to physical contact.
Um, what I was going to ask is, then have you ever felt like you couldn't share, like when that was happening? Did you feel like you didn't know what to do, and did you feel bad about yourself, or you just felt like, hey, I just reported it, I'm gonna ignore him, it's no big deal?
I felt for the first time I did it, I felt kind of pressure because I still have to go to class with that person. There's no guarantee it's gonna stop. But then as the more it came, I realized that it's just gonna keep worse if you don't tell, if you don't notify an adult that can keep a close contact or eye on what's being said or what's being done in the classroom.
Okay. Shar, you got anything else for our special guest today?
No, I do not. Thank you so much for coming on. You gave us some more insight. Actually, you confirmed some things that we were talking about before you got on to join us. So thank you very much for always being open and willing to come on and be a special guest.
Thank you
Anything
so
you
much
want
for
to say? Oh,
thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and I just thank you for the opportunity.
all right. Well, thank you so much. We were happy to have you, and we always appreciate you coming on.
Bye.
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 All right. So I am, of course, excited that my son said yes, that he would come on and share his insight. I'm always amazed sometimes at just his responses and his feedback and just hearing his perspective. So,
Absolutely. All right. So now this takes us into healing and your identity after bullying. How do we move forward when we've been bullied? So there's an emotional effect that happens when someone has been bullied. It causes anxiety. We talked about shame, isolation, and even anger. Nobody wants to get bullied. No one likes that feeling, but you get angry, but you're not sure how to handle the emotions and things that you're going through, which also we talked about carries ties into that mental, your mental being affected. You said something with the boundaries was not allowing access to, allowing that person to access you as easily as they had before. But then there also needs to be a sense of forgiveness too. So there's forgiveness versus access. So forgiving does not mean reconnecting with unsafe people. We talked about that in our, previous podcast when we were talking about forgiveness. Just because you forgive them again doesn't mean that they have to have access to you, accessibility
okay.
to you, to be able to hurt you again or make you feel uncomfortable. What do you think
Because
about that?
I was going to say, because that goes back to the statement that I had shared about sometimes the adult bullies are former wounded children who never healed, right? So because if you're not able to just forgive that person and move on, right? Forgive, but then limit access. I'm no longer going to associate with you. I'm not going to come around you. And sometimes, y'all, that's hard when it is a family, right? When it's the workplace, it could be hard if you have to work directly with that person, especially if you work
Yes,
somewhere where you're in a team and you have a partner and you gotta, that could be hard to avoid access, other than you might just have to look for another job. But but the same thing is just forgiving, not living with that, not allowing what happened to you, right, to cause you to not forgive, and you're not forgiving that person. And we talked about in our forgiveness episode, doesn't matter if they ask you for forgiveness or not, but you being able to heal enough to forgive them and again limit that access.
that's good. All right, rebuilding. You can go, and we talked about this too. You can go to counseling. You can find a mentor, have somebody, find somebody to talk to. Um, Healthy friendships and community, rely on those people, lean on those people. Um, Identify statements, who God says you are and not what they called you, you know.
So those are
Um,
things you say to yourself, right?
right.
Identity
That's that
statements.
affirmation to yourself.
Yes,
That's that positive thinking or wording that you're speaking to yourself. Just because they call you that doesn't mean that you have to answer to it either.
that's right.
And you don't have to identify with what who they say you are, because you should know who you are, and you should be able to say, no, I don't agree with that. That's not who I am, and that ain't, that ain't what God said about me.
That's right. You're right.
What do you think about that?
I think definitely because that counters that mental health. So when we're talking about mental health, because we didn't touch on it, but another form of mental health is depression, right? So bullying causes you to be depressed. So then the counter for that depressed is to have those positive affirmation statements to retrain the brain to not focus on those negative things that the bully and is saying, but to tell yourself those positive things so that you can start healing and knowing that you're not what somebody's calling you, right? Those things
Absolutely.
aren't true, because what can tend to happen in the mental health too is you'll start to believe the
Hmm.
lies, because they're lies, right? You'll start to believe the lies that this person or the bully is telling you, and then you forget that you're strong. And again, looking in the mirror sometimes and telling yourself, I am beautiful, telling yourself the opposite. And that takes time and that takes practice and that takes intentionality. So sometimes we want the quick fix, y'all, but there's not always a quick fix. And again, we got to be careful with the quick fixes, because if it's a quick fix, then how long is it going to last? Versus the time that you put into making sure that you're giving those positive statements, right? So you can retrain those thoughts.
Right. Because it's okay not to be okay, but you need to make sure that you are seeking out the help that is going to allow you to be okay.
That's right.
This was a really good episode. I like.
Yeah, if nothing else, we want to end on the fact of saying you definitely want to confront and identify the behavior if you're in that situation. And we didn't touch on it, but even as it relates to family, it could be a spouse, right? Maybe your spouse is saying some things, but being able to identify those behaviors, right? Again, always seeking outside help to get that
Yes.
counselor, get that mentor, somebody that can help you. And so we do want to leave you guys with a challenge, and we hope that
Yes.
we'll hear from you by way of all of the social media platforms. But the challenge we want to give you all this week is to identify one boundary or one brave conversation you need to have, right? So search it. Maybe you're good. Maybe there's nothing going on, and that's great. But if this resonated with you, right? If anything that we said about bullying, whether it's at work, church, family, friend, we would encourage you to identify one boundary. We went through those boundaries of different things that you can do, or one brave conversation. Maybe it's just a matter of you need to have that brave conversation with that person that has been bullying you or making you feel uncomfortable. And again, if you're open to it, we'd love for you to share how that went, or what boundary you put in place, or what the results were of that conversation.
Conversation.
Right. And prior to, if you need to, seek counsel, seek some kind of help if you need that before you confront. Again, go
Hmm.
back and review the boundaries that we put in place, but do your own research if you need more to help you prior to doing it, just so that you can have that support that you need emotionally and make sure that you're prepared for those difficult conversations. But we encourage you to have those conversations and to no longer be defeated, no longer to allow yourself to be bullied. And again, know that there's help, know that there's resources, and there's things that you can do.
I think that is an amazing thing for us to end on.
Yes. So as always, we thank you guys for tuning in. Share, share, share,
Share,
like,
share, share.
comment,
Subscribe, subscribe.
subscribe. And we are grateful for you guys. And we will be back soon with another episode.